Earth truly was an ambitious project. An entire galaxy in a black hole they had created. It was astounding what was capable of existing in so infinitesimally small a space. Truly, he barely understood it. He doubted that even those who had created it truly grasped what they had made, or how they had done it. It was like a compression algorithm, something of a massive size reduced to a fraction of what it once was, or is. The scientists could safely study all the planets and life forms in it, but none dared actually try to enter the black hole. It was not certain death. No, it was uncertain death. And the more they theorized what might occur if they tried to enter, the more they were convinced that it was simply not possible. That did have its benefits, however. It was a window into the world they had created, yet with no entrance or exit. Whatever became of Earth, it would be confined to its own galaxy. 47S3 was certainly a curious development, though. A peaceful war race? How oxymoronic. It was certainly the first time they had encountered such a thing, not just in Earth, but the galaxy as a whole. It was always one or the other, yet neither was without its negatives. The war races do very well to conquer their own planet, but few manage to colonize other systems. They usually exterminate each other before that ever becomes a possibility. Nasty, short, and brutish lives are the hallmark of war races, and that is certainly a blessing for us, for we are peaceful. Peaceful races such as ours fare much better, as mutual cooperation is a sure indicator of eventual interplanetary travel. But of course, any war race that does make it out of their planet tends to quickly dominate all peaceful planets around them. The galaxy had learned this time and time again, and countless billions, if not trillions of lives have been lost at the hand of the few spacefaring warrior races. It was only with the cooperation of all peaceful civilizations together that the warrior races were finally defeated, although no doubt their own infighting did at least as much damage as we did. The aftermath of that had led to the Galactic Treaty, in which any emerging species or planets that waged war were swiftly dealt with. We simply nipped them in the bud, so to speak. With no notable war races left, the treaty subsisted, and the galaxy had grown into a peaceful, harmonious place as a result. Species freely intermix, and science flourishes. Truly, there has never been such long-lasting peace and prosperity in all our history. A peaceful war race. That would certainly be nipped in the bud, if it were not enclosed in our black hole. In the right circumstances, a species like that could unite to wage war on all other planets, and far more effectively than a war race. Looking at what the species had already done to each other, if they were unleashed on the galaxy with sufficient technology, the results could be catastrophic. However, with them safely contained in their own little pocket galaxy, they would watch 47S3 very closely indeed. Earth was in for a rough time. Fortunately for us, there was simply no way the species could exit the black hole. Theoretically, of course. All 12 intelligent life forms were improving their spacefaring capabilities dramatically. The 9 peaceful races had already sent members of their species to most of the planets in their solar systems, and a few were preparing to send convoys to the surrounding stars. Almost all of them were inclusionary in nature, meaning that when they eventually encountered each other, they would likely band together, as we have done. Predictably, the 2 war races were using the technological improvements they had gained to massacre their own kind. Following the natural trends, 89S2 would likely kill each other off before any notable interplanetary colonization would occur, but 20S4 has shown an alarming potential to leave their solar system before self-eradication occurs. Already their spacecraft were poised for inter-system exploration, and they had capable weaponry, even for our standards. Perhaps we were focused on the wrong species. 47S3 remained a curious case. Their development lagged behind the other life forms, their bizarre mix of peacefulness and warring barring the way to progress. It should have been obvious to us when you considered the data. War races were notorious for rapidly improving technology as a means for destruction, as the ruthless nature of their existence meant that technological improvement must be swift and merciless in order to survive. Peaceful races improve at rates relatively slower than war races, as the competitive drive is entirely unnecessary. But once the planet successfully subdues all hostile fauna and flora and unites, they are free to flourish in interplanetary travel. Peaceful races may start slow, but they rapidly build momentum. 47S3's strange intermix of peace and war has led to the species dragging behind the others. They are strangely content to genocide their own kind with both startling regularity and irregularity. The species are unpredictable and fickle, and their massive conflicts seem to find their roots in the various races, religions and cultures within their species. Perhaps the incredibly diverse climate of the planet, which has led to relatively extreme variation in belief structures and values, is the root of their curious mix of peace and war. We can only surmise, as they are the first of their kind. They live in a constant state of conflict that either bubbles below the surface or boils over dramatically in a World War-like fashion. Perhaps all they need is something to unite them, a common goal for the species as a whole. Unfortunately for them, and for us, it would seem they would never get their chance. Fortune has placed them a single solar system away from 20S4, who have military convoys in hyperspace travel as we speak. No doubt their paths will cross soon enough. 47S3 will be nipped in the bud, and perhaps the Earth project as a whole will suffer a fate we only narrowly avoided. Such is the nature of progress. Things have progressed significantly since our last investigation. 20S4 attacked 47S3's home planet in a brutal all-out assault. They took them completely unawares and gave them no time to react. Their capital cities have been decimated, their military overrun. 20S4's attack was ferocious and merciless, exactly what was to be expected from a war race. At least a fifth of 47S3's population have already been killed, and it seems that 20S4 do not intend to enslave the populace, but rather exterminate them. What was possibly the most valuable species for us to observe will soon be extinct. Truthfully, if we could intervene, we would. But Earth will have to run its course. Science is not without its tragedies. However, 8 of the 9 peaceful races have open communications with one another, and many have already had physical contact. The final peaceful race, staunchly exclusionary, have decided to remain in their own solar system. They have begun the process of solar cloaking, diverting their sun's rays inwards to mask their presence. Our galaxy contains many races with such a disposition, so it was not irregular to assume that at least one race would go down that path. Additionally, 89S2 lies in ruins. What is left of their species are fighting for the scraps of their fractured civilization. Barring intervention, they will be wiped out soon enough. Interestingly enough, the peaceful races are not without their realpolitik. Further investigation has revealed that they knew of 20S4's existence, as well as their plans to attack 47S3. They do not deign to warn them, however, nor send out aid of any kind. Instead, they are making preparations to deal with 20S4, while the majority of their fleet lays siege on 47S3, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. It would seem that we could learn some things from our peaceful brethren. Had we maneuvered this way before the war races gained a foothold on our galaxy, who knows how many lives could have been saved. While 8 races against 1 has a definite outcome, there is no doubt that 20S4 will put up a fierce fight. Perhaps that will force the peaceful races to improve their technology at an even faster rate, which would of course only benefit us. With any luck, they'll... Wait. 47S3 have launched a resistance, and they're winning. The species of 47S3, or humans, as we have come to know them, will not go down without a fight. While the 20S4 mercilessly slaughtered them, the humans launched a level of coordinated resistance that none of our algorithms could have possibly predicted. While their technology was hopelessly outmatched, it seems they are able to use what they have in a superior manner. They use advanced warfare stratagem almost spontaneously, and cooperate with each other as if they have the same mind. They have shown themselves to be fearless and driven, and they will often risk multiple lives to save but one. Truly, their self-sacrifice is unmatched. It is an instinct that neither war nor peaceful race could have ever achieved. The war races are selfish in nature, every army an army of individuals. Peaceful races have no such genetic coding for warfare, aside from the necessary battles the calculated, utilitarian approach to life naturally lends itself to. The humans, however, treat each other as if they are all bloodkin. It is a curious sight, after seeing what they were doing to each other so recently before. Perhaps this was the unification they needed, an outside enemy. Something to make them forget about their own petty wars and feuds, something to make them all stand together as one. This was just what we had feared. As the battle raged on, the humans gradually acquired more of the 20S Force technology, and proved surprisingly adept at manipulating it for their own ends. Their capabilities for battle thus rose dramatically, slowly turning the tide of battle as time went on. No day was without massive bloodshed on either side, but while the 20S Force were fighting for pride, the humans were fighting for the very survival of their species. They were absolutely relentless. Eventually, the 20S Force were forced to send their entire fleet to end the war once and for all. This did not escape the knowledge of the E.A.R.T.H, whose entire fleet was already en route to 20S Force's home planet. No doubt they were planning to take advantage of their absence. This turned out to be exactly what the humans were waiting for. Proving particularly capable at intercepting communication channels as the war progressed, the humans had intercepted the backup fleet's communications with the invading force. They held the fleet with their own commandeered ships of the enemy, and when they had boarded under the pretense of joining forces, they slaughtered the crew and seized some of the 20S Force's largest and most deadly spacecraft. This was a devastating blow, and the ensuing carnage resulted in a full rout by the remainder of 20S Force's fleet. Against all odds, the humans had prevailed. With the invading force of the 20S Force repelled, the humans did not rest. They took every last scrap of alien technology that remained and worked feverishly to use it to their own ends. The whole species, the entire planet, worked as one. They became vengeance incarnate, and it was a terrifying thing to behold. In no time at all, they prepared an invading force of their own. It now sets forth to traverse the stars and destroy the species that took everything from them. Using the ships of 20S Force's own communications channels, they have sent out an open declaration of war as their largest ships near their deadly destination. The E.A.R.T.H, meanwhile, approached 20S Force with their own enormous fleet at a steady pace. While their intentions are not known, it does not bode well for the humans. The human fleet neared 20S Force, their flagship in the center of it. It was previously 20S Force's biggest spacecraft, and the humans had repurposed it into a colony ship of behemoth proportions. The human fleet seemed minuscule compared to what 20S Force had used in their invasion force, but 20S Force had taken severe losses in their assault. The remaining ships that had fled back to their planet were still more than plentiful, however, and they flew out to meet the humans without hesitation. The battle commenced immediately, the humans moving in to wage war against the planet's spacecraft. Once again, the capacity for human warfare astounded us, as they expertly combated 20S Force capable defenses. The humans were attacking 20S Force with their own ships, their own weapons. There was a brutal, intentional irony to it. And in the confusion, 20S Force did not know who was friend or foe. The humans took utmost advantage of this and suffered no such doubt, killing the 20S Force spacecraft with alarming efficiency. Still, for all their combat prowess, they were still outnumbered, and their lumbering colony ship dared not venture too far into battle. While the humans were inflicting devastating blows, the outcome of the battle was never certain for either side. A pall of darkness began to fall over the battlefield, but this was no eclipse. The E.A.R.T.H had arrived, their fleet blotting out the sun. There was a tense silence as they moved towards the battle, their weapons charging. The humans were caught completely unawares. They faced their new foe in frantic confusion, sandwiched between them and 20S Force. The humans did not fire on them, however, perhaps realizing the futility of their actions, and instead continued their battle as if the fleet were no more than a passing distraction or passing apocalypse. The E.A.R.T.H then joined in the fray, attacking the 20S4 without provocation. Their weapons rained down on the planet, destroying entire cities in minutes, an airstrike that enveloped the entire planet in flames and fury. The E.A.R.T.'s fleet was nigh uncountable, each equipped with weaponry that could shear through armor and shield with ease. While 20S4 had a chance against the humans, with the combined powers of the E.A.R.T.H, their destruction was all but inevitable. The peaceful races of the E.A.R.T.H had technology and numbers sufficient to completely outclass the 20S4, and no doubt the humans as well. They did not need any form of advanced tactics, however, relying instead on the inevitability of their advantage. Whatever ship they lost to the battle was replaced by 10 more, as they slowly encircled the entire planet with their spacecraft. They fired indiscriminately at 20S4, destroying everything in sight. The 20S4 fought valiantly in isolated incidents, but overall their infighting and lack of leadership only hastened their defeat. As the battle waged on, their planet was reduced to fiery rubble, not unlike their war-raised 89S2 counterparts. The last of their spacecraft were hunted down like vermin, while their entire species perished in the fiery landscape below. There would be no colonization on their planet. A mass flaming grave was all that remained. The final war race in Earth was no more. This result was completely unprecedented. The E.A.R.T.H did not take the advantage to attack the humans unawares, instead joining forces with them against 20S4. Perhaps, against all odds, their species would find peace. After all, the humans were as much a peaceful species as they were a warlike one. Now that they had been united against a common foe and could potentially form an unlikely alliance with the bulk of the galaxy, maybe it could prosper, just as ours had. After the battle was finally over, the entire fleet of the E.A.R.T.H formed a 150-degree circle around the human ships. The human colony ship remained perfectly intact, all of its inhabitants protected by their fleet as well as the E.A.R.T.'s. The E.A.R.T. spacecraft outnumbered the humans by at least 50 to 1, but the human ships had averaged plenty more kills than the E.A.R.T.'s. The humans officially hailed the E.A.R.T., congratulating them and thanking them for the assistance. The E.A.R.T. proceeded to broadcast a message to not just the human fleet, but to their home planet as well. The message read as follows: "We thank you for helping to exterminate our enemies. Your species have fought valiantly and honorably, and you have helped rid the galaxy of the taint of war," the message said. The Council of the E.A.R.T. addressing the species at large. "However, it still remains. You still remain. Alas, the peaceful cannot coexist with the hostile. We cannot risk the safety of the galaxy on the fickle whims of your people, and for that, we must destroy you." All at once, the fleet of the E.A.R.T. opened fire on the humans. There was no time for the colony ship to retreat. Instead, it thrust itself straight ahead into the center of the E.A.R.T.'s fleet, as if to try and burst through it. Every turret of the E.A.R.T.'s fleet focused upon it, yet the other ships of the humans drove forward alongside it, shielding it with their spacecraft, attempting to give it time to escape. Their efforts were honorable but ultimately pointless, as the barrage of fire sheared through the ships in almost no time at all. The colony ship's shields ripped apart, and the ship rotated as if suspended in time. Then, all at once, it exploded. But it was no mere explosion. The shockwave immediately ripped apart any ship within a mile radius, then retracted, as if it was collapsing in on itself. What followed was an explosion that rivaled that of a supernova, creating a morphing circle of pure plasma that grew uncontrollably, completely obliterating everything in its path. The entire fleet of the E.A.R.T. and humans alike were caught in the blast, thousands of ships disintegrating near instantaneously. The explosion reached the surface of 20S4, tearing away what little of it remained. The sphere of plasma grew ever more into the darkness of space, slowly dissipating as it engulfed planets in its wake. We watched in shocked silence. Nothing had predicted this. None could explain it. And then, it slowly dawned on us, as the stupor began to wear away. The human flagship was no colony ship at all. What lined its interior was not humans, but explosives. Every last inch of it. Every possible microcosm of space, filled with the most destructive explosives they could muster. Bombs they had retrieved from the war with 20S4, manipulated and combined with their own. The largest explosive ever produced, disguised as a harmless colony ship. A frantic investigation followed. As it turns out, the humans were far more competent at intercepting transmissions than we had previously thought possible. They had learned of the E.A.R.T.H's existence while they were fighting 20S4, overhearing their communications while they sought to discover their enemy's plans. Consequently, they learned everything the E.A.R.T.H planned to do, and were prepared to do. Thus, the humans set a trap that involved one of their greatest strengths: self-sacrifice. After intense study, we concluded that there were almost no outcomes in this plan that did not suit their purposes. The best outcome of all was the E.A.R.T.H truly making peace with them, but they knew it was not likely. If the E.A.R.T.H did not arrive at all and they somehow lost their battle, they would send the colony ship directly into 20S4's planet and do enough damage to end the war. If the E.A.R.T.H immediately attacked them, their flagship would likely destroy most of their fleet regardless. Instead, they got exactly what they had expected: cooperation, betrayal, and instant revenge. The humans had sacrificed their entire fleet to do the same to the E.A.R.T.H, their losses minuscule when compared in sheer numbers. The humans had shown not only exceptional combat prowess, but had proved to be dangerously devious as well. The peaceful races were simply doing what was necessary to survive, although it can be said that the humans were doing much the same. What would we have done in the same position? And what would we have deserved if we had done so? The humans were still at a massive disadvantage, however. They may have destroyed the entire fleet of the E.A.R.T.H, but it was still one species against 8. No matter how fast the humans could rebuild, the E.A.R.T.H could do it quicker and better. Unless the humans did not bring their entire fleet to 20S4. Unless their trap had not fully sprung just yet. The humans not only knew that the E.A.R.T.H were coming, they had pinpointed the precise location of their home planets long before the E.A.R.T.H sent their fleet to their demise. How the humans discovered the source of the planets, no one knew. It was unnerving. How sophisticated was their subterfuge? Just what were they capable of? Regardless, in an effortless display of Machiavellian design, the humans had secretly sent an invasion force to each home planet, and the E.A.R.T.H had played into their trap perfectly. Had they not betrayed the humans, all of this senseless bloodshed could have been avoided. But alas, the tide of battle was about to engulf them all. The E.A.R.T.'s home planets had been left near defenseless, and the humans arrived at all 8 planets simultaneously. Taken completely unawares, the humans had attacked in precise surgical assaults, giving the planet's protectors no time to react. There was something almost unnatural about their onslaught. It was as if they were all operating on instinct, as if, even though separated by light years, all armies attacking all 8 home planets were all operating with the same mind. There was a fluidity and ease to their warfare that was incomparable to anything we'd seen before, and the E.A.R.T.'s flimsy attempts at defense proved futile. The humans struck again and again, without hesitation, without pause. Every culture, every race, every religion, all focused on a single thing: destruction. While the E.A.R.T. still had the advantage in numbers, their fleets had become a disorganized mess, simply overwhelmed by the superior human fleet. The human spacecraft were primitive in comparison, but their skill trumpeted the E.A.R.T.'s technology time and time again. One by one, the E.A.R.T.'s home planets fell to the human assaults, as the tide of battle endlessly turned in their favor. Countless ships were destroyed and then salvaged by the humans, who thus continually improved their own technological capabilities. The humans were dangerously adept at manipulating others' technology for their own benefit, and their advances came exponentially. This war seemed a culmination of everything that made the humans such a terrifying species. Their instinct for battle, their fearlessness, their adaptability. It had all been honed throughout their history, and twice through the near genocide that their species had faced. The E.A.R.T. possessed no such gifts, and paid dearly in the light of its absence. One by one they fell, civilizations that were poised to rule supreme over the galaxy, diminished to smouldering remains. We could only watch in horror as the war unfolded, the death toll quickly rising to the tens of billions. A species that was simultaneously peaceful, yet warlike. It was enough to tear the galaxy apart. Soon, only 2 of the 8 remained, and the humans reinforced the fronts with the veterans of the other wars. The fighting was bloody and costly, but the humans triumphed in the end. They were like some kind of unstoppable virus, a monster that grew 3 heads for every one you cut off. There was no conflict within their ranks anymore, no feuds or hostility. The humans had transcended what drove them apart before, instead focusing on that what sought to end them, and ended them instead. The Earth project had finally run its course, with a truly spectacular ending. And now, it was time to end it. The project had been a resounding success. Various intelligent lifeforms had grown and flourished in Earth in a manner beyond our wildest expectations. We had glimpsed into the light of our own beginnings, like a mirror into our own world. Above all and against all odds, the humans had risen and conquered everything in their path. They were a foe like no other. Had we faced them in our own galaxy, I am not certain that we would still be here today. What luck we had that a peaceful war race was so rare a phenomenon, and so contained in our own experiment. However, there was little left to gain from the project. It had already used up an absolutely astounding amount of energy. We had diverted a total of 16 hermit stars to the black hole to power it. They were all but white dwarfs now, and we could not justify any more energy expenditure on the project. We would create the gravity well, forcing all 16 hermit stars into the black hole simultaneously. It would soon collapse in on itself, and Earth would cease to exist. The timing was fortunate, as the human rate of scientific advancement was increasing exponentially. While we could eventually even possibly copy some of their new technological improvements, we did not want to compromise the experiment. The humans could not find out about the true nature of their galaxy. That would be completely unethical, quite simply. Thus, we set about the preparations of the end. Earth would be no more, and yet our knowledge would remain. Knowledge that would no doubt come in use for the thousands of new Earths we had planned, once the first was officially shut down. It was bittersweet, really. The humans had overcome everything, yet they would never get a chance to enjoy their peace. All that destruction and bloodshed, the constant struggle for unification, just for it to all end as soon as they had finally won. We cannot let ourselves become too attached, however. After all, that is the nature of progress. First we giveth, then we taketh away. As our final preparations were completed, we gazed into Earth for one last time. The gravity well had been forced open, and all 16 hermit stars began their descent into the black hole. There was an air of poignancy to it all, as if we were saying goodbye to our children. We soon discovered a development none had predicted. The humans had encircled the black hole. Hundreds of ships in stasis all turned inwards towards it. They had advanced apparatus not entirely unlike our own, and there seemed to be an intense focus to their operations. There was something deeply unsettling about it. The humans had barely finished their war, and yet already they were fiercely engaging in scientific endeavors. All the more reason to end the project. Perhaps the humans were closer to discovering the true nature of their galaxy than we realized. Still, we were overcome with curiosity, unable to look away. I observed the humans as closely as I could. There was something disconcerting about their presence, like a reflection staring back at you. I could not shake the feeling of being watched. It was all so clear now. How the humans had found the home planets of the Eight, how they had always been one step ahead of them, and us throughout it all. They had been listening to us all the while. Everything we had said, every observation we had made, every single little bit of information, they had received it all, since the attack of 20S4. Ever since they had used the alien tech against their attackers, intercepting their transmissions, they had been receiving ours as well. And now they had found the source of it all, the black hole in the center of their galaxy. The black hole that linked Earth to our galaxy. The project was compromised. We had been given very few guidelines, but one thing was always clear. Do not let the subjects know that they are in the project. Do not let them become aware. We had to speed up the implosion process. The humans were frantic, but we did not know their intentions. We attempted to hide our actions, knowing that they were listening in. Watching. Waiting. All the while we pored over our calculations, our wildest predictions. It proved impossible each time. There was simply no way they could come through the black hole. It was a window into both worlds, a portal with no entry or exit. And still, they were infinitesimal specks, compressed to almost nothing. They had no power, no chance. And yet the feeling of dread would not leave. Human activity seemed concentrated around two of the colonized planets of the E.A.R.T.H. Some kind of massive fortress had been constructed on each, monsters of scrap salvaged from every battle, an amalgamation of every conquest, every survived war. What could they hope to achieve? Did they expect to survive the end of Earth? The humans were not that stupid. The 16 white dwarfs had circled the black hole in our galaxy in perfect unison, the immense pull of gravity slowly drawing it towards the event horizon. It would not be long now. The fortress of each planet opened up, revealing a firing chamber each the size of a mid-sized moon, connected directly to the planet's core. It was absolutely awe-inspiring. Did they expect to destroy the black hole? No, that would never work. It was impossible. No amount of force could do that. It would simply feed the black hole, the hole that would soon collapse in on itself. The humans were attempting to solve the problem, as they had every time before, and it would simply not succeed. Soon the black hole would collapse, and take all of Earth with it. Each fortress fired simultaneously, behemoth missiles bursting forth from each with enough force to completely blow away the planets that fired them. Both were incomprehensibly large, each many times larger than the colony ship the humans had used to thwart the E.A.R.T.'s betrayal. Each flew towards the center of Earth, curving around the black hole, their shape morphing as the pull of gravity warped them. Still, they flew true, curving, heading directly for each other in an arc around the black hole. The size and speed of them seemed to almost pull the black hole open. Already, the white dwarfs in our galaxy were nearing the center of the black hole, tearing against the force, deforming and breaking apart. Whatever the humans were attempting, it would be too little too late. They could simply not compete with the sheer amount of mass and energy collapsing in on itself, and regardless, they were infinitesimally small compared to us. They were but a spark in comparison. The missiles curved into the black hole, colliding with each other as they began to enter the event horizon. They exploded simultaneously, just as each of the 16 white dwarfs were fully engulfed by our black hole. There was a sudden roar of light as the black hole turned in on itself. A spark to set off an explosion. At once I knew something dire had happened. Something none of us could have predicted. Something catastrophic, and yet I knew it was already too late to stop it. The humans weren't attempting to destroy the black hole. They weren't trying to go through it. The humans had instead ripped it open, creating a spark enough to ignite the energy and mass flooding into the hole, causing it to wrap in on itself, to turn itself inside out. Project Earth was no simulation. It was a living and breathing galaxy that we had created by compressing it into a black hole. While the humans could not destroy the hole, they could invert it. An equal exchange. Small into big, and conversely, big into small. Though something dramatic had occurred, we did not feel a thing. Of course, it was all a matter of perspective. Our galaxy had entered Earth, while Earth had been set free. The black hole began to devour itself and everything around it. We could not run. We could not hide. As we watched the end of the world, I resigned myself to my fate. The humans had won. Such is the nature of progress.